Mark Carney was in Paris today promising an army we don't have to a war we can't win in a conflict we shouldn't even be involved in. How is this nonsense still going on while we have Canadians suffering at home? My name is Nico Lagan, and I'm too conservative for the conservatives. My co-host Rob Ambrose, not woke enough for the liberals. We are the political orphans. Mark Carney promising to help Ukraine fight Russia after a peace deal is made if they try to invade again. What
Is that
the
what he
fuck?
said? Mark, come on, bro. Come on, bro.
Yes, yes.
Nobody.
And
Yeah.
with the worst band name from the 90s, the Coalition of the Willing, it really sounds like a gay boy band from the 90s, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Coalition of the Willing.
Yeah. It sounds like a like a pedophile's boy band, favorite boy
Yeah.
band, right? A bunch of a bunch of young boys or something, and these ones are the willing ones. They're a coalition of the willing ones.
Well, there's the algorithm down the window
Yeah,
on
yeah,
YouTube.
yeah,
That did
yeah. So we won't get any viewers for a week or so.
Well, that started well. 2 minutes
Yep.
in the
Womp womp.
pedophile world. Yep, we
Yeah,
are
the
done for
PDF
today.
the
So,
PDF file.
oh Jesus! But
Yeah.
it's again, this is Canada. Can't believe that this is actually happening. But here's CTV reporting on it. Canada co-signs pact to help secure Ukraine from Russian attacks after peace deal. Prime Minister Mark Carney wrapped up a brief trip to Paris for these talks by promising Canada's support for Ukraine alongside the more than 30 countries in the coalition, though it remains unclear whether Canada would deploy troops in the Ukraine. It's like, man, while that effort would be led by Europe, the government says the force would also involve non European members of the coalition and the proposed support of the US. Of course, because we can't do shit without the US, right?
Sure.
When is it going to end? Like, I'm talking about this today because I'm just tired of seeing this crap. Like, it goes on and on and on and on. Help for Ukraine this, help for Ukraine that. And man, look at this. Does that not look gay as hell? Like this is the leader of Canada and the leader of France.
Looks like he's got his finger in his chute there in the back. one
Man,
one of
even
them one of them's being penetrated in this picture. I'm not sure which one.
maybe both. Maybe
Yeah.
both, but this is just you look at this, is that are those manly men? Like I I'm
No.
baffled, man. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah, of
baffled
course.
because
I mean, it's all gay. It's all fake and gay. And honestly, you can be gay all you want and fake and shit all you want as long as you run the country well. But you're not really seeing much of that either.
like
Um,
look at this picture right here with Zelensky. Like he's doing
Top
Macron's doing the
left,
same
does he
thing.
have a spanking paddle or something there in the top left?
Look at this. Like, oh, shut up. I don't want your crap. Look at this. Like, is that
Which one?
masculine? This one right
No,
here. Oh
no, of
shit,
course
sorry.
not.
No, sorry. It popped up on a different screen and it's not sharing. I gotta blow up
Oh yeah, I didn't see it.
of the picture. Yeah, there you go. Like, check this out.
Um,
Is that
yeah,
is that masculine to you? Like, it blows my mind. Look at this. Like, I don't know what Macron's obsession with overwrapping the hand on top of the handshake.
mm,
Like, I shake your hand and then I wrap on top.
yeah. I mean, it's all
Like,
theater, right? I mean, that's
w-
politics.
why
But
are
yeah,
we
they're
involved in this?
these
Like,
these are
why?
these are
Why?
these
Why?
these are
Why?
not yeah, these are not our best. Put it that way.
You know what, Pam? I have seen Carney's husband. I mean, wife. Yes, I
Yeah,
did. I
it's a
did.
dude, bro. Yeah,
She's more masculine than he is. Not that
yeah,
it's an accomplishment or anything, but all to say that why are we involved in this?
yeah. I mean,
Like
like
why?
the Ukraine.
Why?
It's. I mean, we know why. It's virtue signaling. It's it's making buddies with your European friends. I don't know what Carney's obsession is with Europe, but I don't think it's in Canada's best interest. And obviously we have to be connected to them, and they're still allies and all that. But like, it seems like it's at the expense of our relationship with the United States, and that's a huge mistake. And people can say, oh, well, that's Trump's fault. Yeah, maybe I'd even accept Trump might have like started it, but we all know Trump can be manipulated. You just got to massage the ego a little bit. He loves to be the big swinging dick in the room. And Carney acted like his little feelings were hurt, and he's like took his ball and went home. If the big swinging dick down south that is responsible for 80% of our trade throws a bit of a tantrum and treats us a little poorly, like we have been taking advantage of the relationship with the United States for quite a while. And that's, in some ways, it's not our fault. It's their fault for allowing it. But we have to understand that is reality on the ground, and we can't act all butthurt because they finally said, we're not going to let you guys take advantage of us anymore. Go back and fucking repair that relationship. It is repairable. Donald Trump, probably more than almost any politician I've ever seen, he does allow his personal feelings to get into business for sure. If he really likes you, he'll make it work. And you can twist that to your advantage, right? And if he doesn't like you, it's often not personal, right? It is business. He's not a complicated guy. He's a complicated guy if you look at him through the prism of a traditional politician. Of course, he's not that. But if you look at him as through the prism of a businessman, a deal maker, probably a bit of a narcissist, you can really you can figure out how to work with him, how to play him a little bit. But we're not willing to do that. We're over there buddy and up to Europe. That's the only reason we send money to Ukraine. How does this benefit Canadian interests? We could use that $2 billion. We have people dying in the ER.
Like, listen to this. Earlier Tuesday, Carney said his government's push to build up the army will help Canada play a role in securing Ukraine after the war. Why the fuck is that even a priority of ours? We shouldn't be building our army to help Ukraine. We should be building an army because we don't fucking have one. Listen to this. We've been building that bench, and we're going to continue to build that bench, he told reporters. Like, what the fuck type of Kamala Harris
how lame is that? We're bragging about the bench.
We've been building that bench. But but he goes on to say the largest military buildup in generations coming over the course of the next 5 years, an additional $80 billion of investment, in part because of issues like this. So he just keeps on using Ukraine to build our army. Like, what does one have to do with the other? Fuck Ukraine.
Yeah. I mean, we should be building our army anyways, but it has nothing to do with Ukraine. Certainly, we should not be building it to send it to the Ukraine and stand as a buffer between Ukraine and Russia. Fuck that noise.
No. $24.5 billion is how much we've given the Ukraine since 2022.
I wonder how many doctor slots and hospitals that would build.
I'm wondering how much money of that is kicked back to Brookfield. Look at Chrystia Freeland. You heard about that, right? She's become an economic advisor to Zelensky. She's still an MP right now.
Quit?
As we speak, she will resign. When the story broke yesterday or the day before, there was no mention of her quitting her post as an MP. Then she came out to say, "Oh, I'm gonna quit in the following weeks." Like, no, quit right now. You accepted a job working for Zelensky as an economic advisor when your government, because she has been part of the government as a minister since this whole mess started, and she is part of the $24.5 billion that was sent there. This is the same twat that allowed what was it, $1 or $2 billion to go to China to build ship we could have built here. Same thing for We're talking about the same girl that was a special envoy to Ukraine by Mark Carney. Now she's become an advisor. Oh, and I'm gonna quit my MP post in the next few weeks. Yeah, no, no, you quit now. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely
Well,
insane.
once I've got enough conflict of interest under my belt, I'll leave. I mean, it's who said here? Trevor said Brookfield's going to rebuild Ukraine. Yeah, they have contracts
100%.
to rebuild Ukraine, and that makes, like, I've thought, like, if to put on my own conspiracy hat, that makes this whole, keep sending money to Ukraine thing take on a much darker tone, because one
Yep.
way to, he says he's helping Ukraine, and in a way he is, but if it just extends the war and causes more destruction to Ukraine, that's not really helping Ukraine. They're going to lose this war. They're not going to win it. And if Carney, and I'm not saying he does this because this would be a very serious charge, but theoretically, it is in Brookfield's interest to have a more destroyed Ukraine than a less destroyed Ukraine. And one way to cause it to be more destroyed is to keep the war going long as you can. And one way to do that is to fund one of the sides. And that's exactly what they're doing. Like, they're not going to win that war. I don't think anybody thinks they're
They
going to win
just
that
want to
war.
repair it. So they already have investments in the Ukraine as part of an IT park. Then they just won an agreement with Westinghouse, because most people don't know, but Brookfield is the majority owner of Westinghouse. They
Yep.
won a contract that is estimated to be around the 60 to 70 billion dollars in order to build nuclear plant, to build the engine of those nuclear plants in the Ukraine. Like, how is this not
Interesting.
a massive, massive conflict of interest?
Well, it
And there's
clearly
been
is.
rumors for at least a year or two that Brookfield was in negotiation with the Ukraine in order to, and I'm sorry if I always say the Ukraine, it's an old Seinfeld joke. I don't know if you saw that episode where they're playing Risk, or yeah, is it Risk? Yeah, the world domination game, and they're
Yep.
in the
Yep.
subway,
Yep.
Kramer and the fat mailman, and he's like, the Ukraine is weak. The Ukraine is not weak, and a guy just smashes the board. So I keep on saying
Smashes the board.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
always say the Ukraine because of fucking Seinfeld, but all to say that billions upon billions of dollars are being sent to Ukraine. Then contracts are being given to Westinghouse, which is owned by Brookfield. Brookfield has been working in securing contracts to help the reconstruction of Ukraine. On top of that, Carney was saying a couple of weeks or 3 weeks ago that they would help Ukraine rebuild their pipelines that have been destroyed because of the war. We can't even have pipelines in Canada, and that same fucking company just bought the biggest pipeline in the US.
Well, yeah,
It's
exactly, right?
absolutely insane what's going
Well,
on. No, absolutely insane.
and this is why, like, the whole point of corruption is governments need to not even give the impression of corruption, right? The whole point is
Oh,
of a conflict of interest, for example. The reason it's dangerous is because we just don't know if it just throws every decision made by the compromised politician in question. Like, as Carney prime minister, is he giving Ukraine money because he genuinely thinks that's in Canada's interest, or is it because he owns lots of stock in a company that does a lot of business in Ukraine? And let's say, hypothetically, for the sake of this argument, let's say it is just because he genuinely believes in Canada's best interest. We don't know that. How are we supposed to know that? Just the appearance of the conflict of interest,
yep.
and that's bad enough, right? Because then that's how you lose faith in the system. And I don't know if these clowns have noticed or not, but they're running really low on faith these days in the system. And there's a whole lot of people on the left and the right who are losing faith in the system. It's funny how you see
They're
that,
not
like,
even trying. They're not
nobody
even
trusts the
trying.
system. The only difference
Nope.
between right and left is what the problem is and what the solutions are, but nobody trusts it.
No. And here's the funny part. So I took a bit of time to just research this. So Russia's military is estimated at 1.5 million active duty personnel with 2 million reservists as we speak, but their plan for 2026 is to recruit over 400,000 new active personnel for their army, so boosting it to almost 2 millions of active and 2 million of reservists. Canada's military right now, as we speak, is around 65,000 active member plus
And they're going to boost it.
24,000 in to 100
They're going
to
to
just
boost it
over
to
100,000.
75,000. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. So basically, a quarter of the Russia's recruitment. And that's after their $1 million man army and 2 million men reserve.
The coalition of the willing, being NATO plus key Asian allies like South Korea, Japan, and Australia, have a combined army size estimated to 2.8 million. And that's without the US, right?
Well, and
So
they're not going to send their whole armies, right? Like
that's 33 countries or something like that. I think there's 30 or 33 countries as part of the coalition of the willing. And they're not even more than what Russia can produce right now. Remove the US from it, and we know that the US is not fighting. They're not going to fight with Russia. They made it very clear that they are on. They want peace by Ukraine giving what Russia wants. Basically, that's the peace deal that Trump won, and it makes sense considering what we were talking about yesterday about the Monroe Doctrine, right?
Yep.
You can keep Eurasia, but fuck off in the Western Hemisphere. You have no business here. So do whatever you want in Eurasia. China can do whatever they want in Asia, but don't you fucking dare come to the Western Hemisphere that belongs to the US.
Yep. That's right.
Before you answer this, hold on. Let's put a bit of humor to this because, you know, I was talking about this video yesterday or the day before and I found it. I just want to show that. Like, this is the army that, remember our top general said we were ready for war? This is the video I was talking about. This is the video. This is what Russia will have to fear if they dare reinvade Ukraine after a peace deal. This is the army to fear. Look at this. They're so not you know, I don't want to laugh at guys that are in the military.
Oh my God, those ones in the world. So bad. That was so bad.
The guy double steps. Did you see that? There's an Indian dude like right there. He's just like,
yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's so funny. Yeah, that's
that is a warning to you guys, Russia.
Yeah, you don't want to face that. Yeah. They're like, wow, those guys they put all their time into training for war. They don't even have enough time to train for drill. We gotta be scared about these guys. They're not even.
Have you ever seen drills from Russia and China? Have you ever seen their drills?
Yeah. Well, it's because
that's actually
shot.
It's beautiful.
Mistake.
So yeah, this is what's happening with the Ukraine. By the way, guys, at 8:30 today, in like 7 minutes, we are joined by Ted Kuntz, the president of Vaccine Choice Canada, to speak about the CDC's new child vaccination overhaul. If you did not see the episode I just recorded, I recorded at 6 to 7, so about an hour and a half ago. I recorded with Aaron Siri, lawyer, writer, but also one of the key players in RFK Jr.'s new CDC policies. So I got to speak with him. Very cool. Very, very cool guy. Got to answer a bunch of questions. And I got to be honest, I did not want to say that to him, but I did not realize who he was when I reached out to him. I saw some videos of him on Instagram. I'm like, that dude sounds awesome. And he's a lawyer that specializes in vaccines, like going after the vaccine mandates and defending people against vaccine mandates and injuries. But then today I was researching him. I'm like, oh shit, that's who the guy is. That's why he looks so familiar. He was working with with Kennedy Jr., which is kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Well, I appreciate that, Claire. He admitted on a few things that I can't repeat, but we continued talking about the conversation a bit after the show, 5-10 minutes more. He was very controlled on the interview. He's a lawyer, right? So he's very good at
Mhm.
this. Behind the scene, he literally did this, like he untied his tie, and he's just like, "Let me tell you something." We just had a. He's just a cool dude. I like the guy. He's a cool dude. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the interview. If you haven't seen it, it's on my YouTube channel. Cool guy. He answered all the questions I asked. So very cool guy. But we're
Nice,
joined
nice.
in about 5 minutes by Ted Kuntz to speak about the CDC new children vaccination overhaul and what his opinion is on it, and should Canada follow suit, because it seems that the US is moving in a very different direction when it comes to that than we are.
Well, yeah. I mean, have you seen the numbers for how many vaccines they have? The U.S. is crazy. I don't know what they are for Canada versus the U.S., but I know it's quite a bit.
It says bad here.
Interestingly,
It says bad. It says bad.
Interestingly, it's less in Europe for whatever reason. I think it's like 15 in Europe, but like 60 in the United States or something. And don't quote me on that. It's not the exact numbers, but it's a large gap.
We'll talk about that with Ted. So there's no. Let's not get
Yeah,
into it right
he would
now.
know,
But
he
that's
would know
why
the numbers. He would know the numbers.
I've done a lot of research. I kind of looked into what the CDC is doing, and
Yep.
now that I recorded with one of the guys that actually participated in those new policies, it's going to make for a good conversation with Ted.
Nice.
We got like 4 minutes before he shows up, so let me just mention the sponsor of the day, Gabble, the world's first live video debate app on the market. You can choose to sit back and watch others debate, or if you have the balls, jump in and debate others. 10 topics a day. There's a bunch of people debating. It's great. If you like to debate people, it's done politely. You pick a side of an argument and debate. So if you're interested, check the description below for the affiliate link. What I was going to say, I just want to mention one thing super fast, because this happened yesterday, and it kind of proves a point of what I've been saying ever since D'Entremont left the Conservative Party to join the Liberals, is that they were actively trying to get their majority by floor crossing. Well, it's been pretty much confirmed. There's a Tory by the name of Scott Henderson that said that the Liberals are pulling out all the stops to poach more members of Pierre Poilievre's caucus. So he said he was approached by the Liberals to join their party, and he said no. It's going to be a cold day in hell before he betrays his party and the people who voted for him in office. But all to say that what we've been talking about, what I keep on mentioning, that they don't need an election in order to become a majority. Oh, they're basically doing it. Basically, that guy just proved that the Liberals are actively trying to get Conservative Party members to jump ship, which is, I don't understand how that's even legal.
Yeah,
but how's that legal? How's that legal?
Yeah. I think it's. I mean, like obviously the crossing the floor is legal, but we have lots of restrictions and rules on like where and when you can do political lobbying and other things. I think that's the kind of thing that should be regulated. You know, you shouldn't be allowed to just overtly recruit other people like that and make offers. You shouldn't be allowed to make offers. Like you should not be allowed to give them something. You know, if someone wants to do it because
bribery.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Literally
right?
bribery.
If someone wants to do it because of the genuine ideological belief, which it sounds a bit ridiculous because they're never more than a year or 2 or 3 away from election. So what changed the last 3 that turned them from a conservative to a liberal? But yeah, I don't know. I agree. There should be some restrictions or you know, solutions we've talked about a lot. If someone does, like, you can leave your party, but you can't join the other party, or it should you must have to sit as an independent, and then a by-election is called immediately. To me, that sounds pretty reasonable, and I think a lot of people will be in favor of those laws, which is why how you know they're not going to enact them, because they're in favor of them.
Man, we've been talking about this for like 2 months now, and I keep on seeing videos now, but I keep on seeing videos of other people repeating what we've been saying for 2 months. That should be the common sense approach, no
Yeah.
questions about it. If you are going to change from the party in which you were elected for, which your riding voted for, automatically there's a by-election and you cannot vote on anything anymore. It's pretty simple. But
Yeah.
it seems
Yeah.
like the idea is
It's common
catching up.
sense,
It's
right?
catching on.
It's
Yep.
common
Oh
sense.
yeah.
Charlottetown 4422 says it's illegal to offer someone to cross the floor. Is that true? It wouldn't surprise me, because it is bribery, right? It's bribery, whether they want to call
100%.
it that or not. It is. In
Oh,
any
100%.
in any common sense understanding of the word, that is bribery. And I'd be very interested to see if it's actually against the law. I wouldn't be surprised at all, but it's also one of those laws that probably never gets enforced because we know it's happening. We know they're offering these guys stuff.
Or you need to prove it, right?
Yeah, and that's where it gets hard.
That's the problem. That's always the problem with bribery is how do you prove that it actually happened? And that's the biggest issue we're seeing here. But if you have a guy like him that's literally coming out saying that they have approached me, they wanted me to join, that right there is admission. So what more do they need?
Yep.
Really, what more do they need than that? Oh, by the way, as we're waiting for Ted to join us, starting next week or starting on Sunday, should I say, we are moving to 7 p.m. 1 hour earlier. 1 hour earlier. 7 p.m.
Yes.
So quick reminder. We talked about it yesterday. Seems to make sense to both Rob and I, and it's going to be more in the middle of when everybody's on the YouTube. So yeah, 7 p.m. starting on Sunday. Quick update. So you want to take a few comments while we wait for Ted to show up?
Yeah. Let's see. Reynolds says Carney is so dangerous he must be impeached, but by whom? I don't even know if Canada has impeachments, do we? I don't think that's an option.
That's a very good question. We have votes of non-confidence that
yes,
the other
but that's
parties
not,
can.
that makes the whole government fall, and that we'll call an election.
Yeah, it's not. You're not going after the leader, for example. I think the only thing you can do is them, like the Liberal Party, having a vote of non-confidence towards their own leader. But good luck with that. This ain't happening. This is definitely not going to happen. But I'm curious, are there I'm going to check right now, are there laws that prevents floor crossing to be encouraged?
Someone who is it? Yeah, my 2 cents says it's the law in Canada to bribe anyone to cross. It is against the law in Canada to bribe anyone to cross the floor, punishable by up to 14 years in prison.
Yet Mark Carney, I showed the video a couple of times on the show where Mark Carney said in an interview, if your MP's not a Liberal, call them. Call your MP and have them change to the Liberal Party. And now we have the BC Conservative by the name of Scott Anderson that says that the Liberals approached him to join them. So how is that not illegal? How's that not a crime if it is indeed a crime?
Technically, I guess it depends what they offered him. Just saying, hey, do you want to come over? I guess is probably not illegal. And even though you can make the case that it should be, but I think as it currently stands, it's probably not. But of course, we've discussed this a lot. There's what's legal and there's what's right? What's ethical.
Yeah, those are normally extremely, extremely different.
Yeah, exactly, right? Especially in this case, like even if you're broadly supportive of the concept of floor crossing, it has to be a different thing when it gives the other party the majority. That's just too much of it. Like if the Canadian public wanted Mark Carney to have a majority, they would have given it to him. Yeah. So I think you have to, like, I know, some people will say, oh, well, it's just one more floor crossing. Yeah, but the fact that it gives him a majority makes it a fundamentally different act. And I think that it has to be treated like a different act. It isn't, I think it's fair to say that that's unprecedented, right? Like, yeah, it's just a floor crossing. We've had floor crossings, but I don't think we've ever had one that's given a majority. I think we looked this up back when we talked about it. Do you recall? I'm pretty sure it didn't.
Hold on, I'm just responding to Ted because
has it ever happened? Yeah.
Was that a majority has happened through floor crossing? Never. No, that has never happened.
Yeah,
that would be a first in Canadian history.
Yeah.
No, that has never happened.
Okay.
From all I could find, the only time
it's not just another floor.
No, it is going from a minority government to a majority government without an election. That's insane. That's insane that people are condoning this, saying that it's okay. Because the same people that are saying that it's okay would be absolutely outraged if that would happen to the Conservatives.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always the way it is, right? They're very happy when it's in their favor, in their party's favor, but if it were to happen to the other party, that wouldn't be acceptable. Something would need to change. It's like the irony right now of saying, oh, there we are. So here we have Ted, you can hear us? Thumbs up. Yep, awesome. So here is Ted Kuntz, president of Vaccine Choice Canada, to speak about the new CDC child vaccination policies. I guess I'll call them policies. Ted, what's going on?
Nice to see you, Nico. Rod, nice to see you as well.
So, funny enough, today about
thanks for your time.
So funny enough, we've been I've been recording a lot of content for your foundation, and I've been approaching people left, right, and center that have a great voice to speak about vaccination, especially to informed consent. And funny enough, last month I had reached out to Aaron Siri because I saw a couple of his video. I just interviewed him today. I did not know or realize who that guy actually was. I knew he was a lawyer that specializes in lawsuits against people, like for people that either have issues with mandates or issues with vaccination injuries. But it turns out he was a key member of RFK Jr.'s team on those new procedures that we're going to be talking about today. I did not know that when I approached him, so lucky for me, but it was great.
You picked a good one, Nico, to interview. Aaron Suri is a hero in many of our eyes. And I'm sure he talked about his recent book, Vaccines on Men.
Yep.
Fabulous book. He absolutely deconstructs the whole vaccine narrative of safety, efficacy, and necessity in short order.
And he's very outspoken, like very well spoken, because he's a lawyer, but he is not worried about calling it the way he sees it. That does not worry him at all. And we spoke about, because we speak a lot about pregnancy and children vaccination, and we even went into the abortion cells of the unborn that are part of those vaccines. We talked about natural birth. So it was cool. He's a very laid back guy. Like, I did not expect that at all. Very, very cool dude. But let's have that conversation. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm jealous. I want to interview him as well. He was actually on my list today to call. So,
well, I got the hookups if you need them.
Yeah.
So he made it very clear. He made it very clear that it's just. It wouldn't be hard. It definitely wouldn't be hard to get him to agree to another interview. Like, he seems to be very eager to speak, but he's been on Who's podcast. He's very cool to talk to. So we did speak about the new, about the CDC officially scrapping their one size fits all model and going to more of a tier approach, if you will. There's kind of three parts to their overhaul. You have what they call the 17 to 11 cut. So they're really going from 17 vaccines to 11, although Aaron called it more 25 to 18 because he counts the DPT shots that will have multiple
would MMR
vaccines.
be considered 3 or 1? Like the MMR would
That's
be 3 or 1?
Well, I consider
He
that three. That's three. I mean,
so
it's
does
in
he.
one shot,
Sure,
but it's three
sure.
three
Yeah.
vaccines.
Three
Yeah,
separate
so does
cultures
he.
should be two
Yeah,
vaccines.
so he sees it the exact same way. So there's the reduction from 25 to 18 or 17 to 11 if you counted it the way I did. The new three-tier framework, which I particularly love the last part, and then the Denmark model, which Rob was asking about earlier. And it's interesting because I asked him a question, and I know where you sit on this, but I asked him, I'm like, okay, so you guys have removed Hep B, Hep A, flu, COVID-19, rotavirus, the RSV vaccine, but you kept measles, mumps, rubella,
Right.
polio, diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, hip, pneumococcal, chickenpox, and HPV. I'm like, why? Why
Right.
are you removing those ones and keeping those ones? He's like, this is just a first step.
Hmm.
He's like, I don't want any vaccination for, I'm paraphrasing, obviously. I don't want vaccination for children, but this is a first step. Are you satisfied as the president of Vaccine Choice Canada about that first step? And do you want them to go further?
Well, I'm like Aaron. I mean, my thought is this is a step in the right direction, but I'm not celebrating yet because every vaccine on the market, as far as I'm concerned, is dangerous. It harms and kills. No vaccine has been proven safe using controlled studies, using a true placebo. And so their claims of safety and efficacy, to me, is deception. It's fraud. And when you actually look at the number of vaccine adverse events that have been reported to the VAERS system in the United States, and you add them up for all of the vaccines on the schedule, it's over 1 million adverse events have been reported. And a study that was done by HHS in 2011 identified that less than 1% of actual injuries are reported. So you could multiply that number by 100. You're looking at 100 million adverse events potentially have been documented or should be documented in the United States. My own research is, and if you look at the Henry Ford study that just came out in November, a study that is considered to be the most robust vaccinated versus unvaccinated study that's ever been done in the United States. And it was withheld for 5 years because they didn't like the results of the study. And what it conclusively showed is that even being exposed to one vaccine increases your risk of having a serious chronic condition between 200 and 500%.
57, as per the Henry Ford study, 57% of vaccinated kids have chronic health issues versus only 17%
17%
of
of
unvaccinated kids. So you're talking 3 times more.
yeah.
That's a coincidence, though, right? One of the things Aaron was very good at, he's a very sarcastic guy. I really enjoyed that because he's like, what? Are you saying that vaccination could cause chronic health? Oh, really? Is that what you're saying? So
So,
what do you think of... Yeah, go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
Hey, no, Ted, I was just wondering. So obviously the CDC is an American. What do you think? You probably know this better than I do. I don't know how closely I don't even know what our version is. But do we just basically rubber stamp whatever the CDC does? Do we go our own way? Do you see us, Canada, trending in this direction, or what's the outlook on that?
Our schedule is almost identical to the U.S. schedule.
Okay.
And when you compare it to the rest of the world, and that's one of the things that got them to this place, is that they were directed by Trump and by Kennedy to look at what other countries are doing in terms of their vaccine recommended routine vaccines for children. And first of all, one is that you'll discover that many of the countries have significantly less recommended vaccines than Canada or the United States.
We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, so Canada's at 17 or 18 vaccines, 17 for most Canadians, 18 if you're a First Nations person. But you look at Denmark. Denmark only has 10 diseases that it provides vaccinations for. But the part that really stood out for me is I did some research today in advance of this conversation, and I wanted to know what other European or international countries have vaccine mandates for kids to go to school. And do you have any idea what that looks like in the rest of the world in terms of childhood vaccine mandates for school attendance?
Zero.
Probably
That's
zero,
what would
right?
be my guess.
Well, so 17 out of 30 EU countries have no vaccine mandates for kids to go to school. And let me just give you the list of countries here, some of them: Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Iceland, United Kingdom, Netherlands, Ireland, Japan, Spain, Portugal, Switzerland, Austria, and New Zealand. So those countries have zero mandates for kids to go to school. In Canada here, we only have 2 provinces that have vaccine mandates, but that's still serious: Ontario and New Brunswick. And you're required in those 2 provinces to be either fully vaccinated or get an exemption, which they make it very difficult for you to get. In addition to that, in Ontario, in applying for an exemption, you are obligated to sign an affidavit before a public notary, that part of that affidavit that you're not allowed to change, saying that by refusing even one vaccine, you're putting your child's life at risk. And you're asked to sign that, or required to sign that, in Ontario. To me, not only is that a violation of our fundamental rights to make medical choices for our children, that's compelled speech. It's forcing you to say something that you don't believe. No parent would willingly sign a document that says, I know that I'm putting my child's life at risk. The parents that refuse to vaccinate their kids are parents that, for the most part, have done their homework. And in many cases, they have experienced vaccine injury, often within their own family. And after that, done their homework like I did. I mean, I only learned about this after my son was injured. And the goal of Vaccine Choice Canada is to reach parents before you have a vaccine injured child or a killed child, and begin to do your homework. And what I know is that the more that you do your research, the more you realize how fraudulent is the vaccine industry, how deceptive it is, how much we've been lied to. I've been asked in the last couple of weeks to write an essay called "What I Wish I Would Have Known Before I Vaccinated My Son." And Rob, I don't know if you remember, my son was severely vaccine injured, had an uncontrolled seizure disorder his entire life, and passed away in 2017. Yeah. And so I started making a list of all the things I wish I would have known. And there are over 50 points of mostly scientific fact that any one of them should cause a parent to pause. And I finally had to stop at 50 because I thought this essay is getting too long.
I shouldn't be laughing at that. But to go back a bit to Rob's question, do you see Canada following those new CDC guidelines, or you don't see that happening at all?
I don't see Canada adopting the new CDC guidelines, if that's your question, Rob. I think that we have Trump derangement syndrome in this country. We have this elbows up, ideology. And so, I'm willing to bet if Biden came out with this, they would adopt it. But because Trump has come out with it,
you're absolutely right.
They're going to reject it offhand without even looking at the evidence. Canada is an outlier compared to Western nations. They give more vaccines than any other country in the world except the United States. Their schedule is virtually the same with the United States. And there's no, if you ask, and I've asked, does Health Canada do any independent testing of the vaccines? The answer is no. Is there anybody in Canada that does independent testing of the vaccines? The answer is no. They simply accept the results that are provided by the vaccine industry themselves.
That's wild.
Let me ask you something, Ted, because Aaron mentioned something, and I want you to confirm if I heard him right. So the second part of their new CDC guidelines, so the first one is to remove a bunch of the vaccines that they don't see as being what they call routine, right? That those are what they recommend every kids get. But their new approach has a 3-tier framework, which you have a definition of routine, which vaccines are considered routine. Then the second category is risk-based, only for children with specific medical condition or those vaccines going to be recommended. And then you have the third one that is shared clinical decision making, as in let the parents choose with the proper information, informed consent, basically. But one thing that he says, and he said two things I want to mention and get your opinion on. Obviously, in his opinion, every single vaccine out there should be part of the shared clinical decision making. Nobody should be forced to take any vaccines you don't want, and it should be informed consent. I think you and I agree on this. But one of the things that I realized as you were talking right now, he mentioned during the interview that they're removing a bunch of routine vaccines. So at least 7 vaccines, which shows more in injections, but 7 different vaccines now, as I said earlier, to be Hep B, Hep A, flu, COVID-19, rotavirus, RSV. 6 are no longer part of the routine schedule. And one point that he made as a lawyer is that now, because they're not considered routine anymore, they're not protected by the government lawsuit protection that we have in both the US and Canada. Did I hear him right? Because I'm just remembering this as we're speaking.
Well, and that's really the question, Nico. And if that's the case, this would be a huge win. So the question is, by removing it from the routine schedule, does that now no longer make it eligible for their immunity that they were granted in 1986? And if that's the case, and I've seen some arguments both ways about that, and likely it's something that will probably end up in the Supreme Court of the United States because it is so important. If vaccine manufacturers are now legally liable for injury and death caused by those 6 or 7 vaccines that they removed from the routine schedule, I'm willing to bet that the next day they would stop manufacturing those vaccines because they will go out of business because of the amount of lawsuits they would be subjected to.
Because how big of a deal is that if they're no longer, if the trick to, because Aaron made it very clear that the reason, because we were talking about accountability, it's a question that I got from the audience by somebody that also their children got, one of their child got vaccine injured, and they're like, I want accountability. I want justice. And I asked Aaron about this, and he's like, unfortunately, it's very hard to get it by reversing that legislation that protects the vaccine industry against lawsuits. And not only does it protect them, but in Canada, VISP protects, gives our taxpayers money to the vaccine injured. So not only are we protecting them, but we're paying for it. But if removing them from the routine vaccine, can you imagine if instead of fighting big pharma, they simply just remove the routine vaccines and shove them all into risk-based or even everything in shared clinical decision making? They would lose, at least he seemed to assume that they would lose their
Legal immunity.
Oh, how big of a deal would that would destroy the vaccine industry?
That would be huge. That would be absolutely huge. And there's a group in the United States that's actively lobbying to try to remove the liability immunity that was granted in 1986. And you're right, it's an act of Congress, and it would probably be virtually impossible to reverse that in Congress. And if what Aaron is saying is true, this is kind of an unexpected way of making vaccine manufacturers legally liable again for injury and death caused by their products. I mean, that would be worth celebrating. I'd get out the champagne for that. Because again, if vaccine manufacturers are legally liable, you can take them to court for vaccine injury, because you can't do that now. Most people don't understand that the vaccine industry is the only industry where the manufacturer is not liable for injury or death caused by their product. You'd be injured by anything else, a cup of coffee, a car, a baby stroller, a car seat, a baby crib. You can sue the manufacturer, and you see it with everything from baby powder to, all kinds of things. The vaccine industry was given immunity in 1986. And the reason they were given immunity is there were so many lawsuits against them for vaccine injury and death. They came to Congress and said, if you don't protect us, we're going to go out of business, and you just might need us in the case of biological warfare. So that's how they co-opted Congress to give them legal immunity. And as part of that agreement in 1986, there was supposed to be all kinds of safeguards in place, that there was supposed to be a report to Congress every 2 years of efforts made to increase the safety of vaccines. How many of those safety reports do you think were given to Congress since 1986?
Zero. Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I asked Aaron was about, do you think that the new policies or the new scheduling is going to somehow repair, or at least start to repair, the relationship between the patient and the doctor, try to reestablish that trust that really has been lost since COVID, since 2020? He seems to believe that maybe I need to listen to the interview. It's different recording an interview and just being there listening to it.
Right.
But what do you think? Do you think that what the CDC is doing is a step in the right direction that might start repairing that relationship between patients and doctors, or do we need accountability? Because that was my take on it. I don't think that's enough. We need to hold them accountable for what they did.
Well, HSS, Bobby Kennedy and company are doing a couple of other things that I think are important in the States. They have withdrawn the bonuses that pediatricians in particular were given for vaccination. And so there was incentives to highly vaccinate your patient population. And that's why in the United States, you had physicians who, if you refused even one vaccine, they would kick you out of their practice, because they were given bonuses if they had, I think it was a minimum of 66% of their client population fully vaccinated. And so you may not understand the significance of that bonus money. So this is in addition to the rest of your practice. It's in addition to what you got paid to actually do the injection. You got paid bonus money for having a high rate of vaccination in your patient population. Dr. Paul Thomas estimated that he lost over $1 million a year because he failed to meet the criteria to have 66% of his patient population fully vaccinated, because he believed in informed consent. So they have now changed that so that the federal government will no longer contribute to that incentivization program. But insurance companies still do that, and the states still do that. As long as pediatricians are being given that kind of financial incentive to vaccinate, I have zero trust that they're going to make decisions or help parents to make the right decisions for their child. The other problem is that even if physicians are going to honor informed consent, the information that parents need in order to make an informed decision either doesn't exist or it's been withheld. And so, for example, the Institute of Medicine, twice now, they have reviewed the 158 suspected injuries from vaccination. And they determined that 135, I think, of the 158 injuries have not actually have any scientific evidence to prove conclusively one way or the other. The bottom line, what they're saying is the science hasn't been done to prove that the vaccine is safe. And so you can go to your doctor and saying, what do you think? But the doctor can't tell you either, because they don't know the science, because it doesn't exist. The best science we have is things like the Henry Ford study, the 2020 control group study, the 2017 Mawson study. Those are all vaccinated versus unvaccinated studies. And each one of those proved conclusively that unvaccinated children are healthier than vaccinated children. And the 2020 study also showed that the risk of dying is higher for every vaccine on the childhood schedule than the risk of dying from not being vaccinated. If parents understood that data point by themselves, they would never vaccinate their child again.
You know, as someone that lost a child to vaccination injury, and not only lost a child but took care of him, because I don't want to be rude and I don't want to overstep a line here, but he was basically invalid, right? He needed 24-hour supervision for all of his life, and
You're
I'm talking about your son.
Yeah.
Yes, he was considered invalid, right? I'm not trying to be disrespectful by using that word here.
So he had the capacity, the intellectual capacity of about a 2.5-year-old. And he had an uncontrolled seizure disorder, which meant he could never be left unattended. So at its peak, Josh was seizing 12 to 15 times a day. and each seizure was 15 to 20 minutes long. So he was never left alone. I slept with Josh my entire life because I discovered I couldn't fall asleep while my son was in his bedroom because I'd spend all night listening. And I finally realized that I had to actually sleep in a bed on the floor in his room so that I was confident that I would wake up when he seized. And I did that.
So it's not just one life it destroys, eh? It's every vaccine injury destroys several.
It destroys the whole family, Rob. I mean, my marriage came apart, and part of that is how do you have a marriage when you got a 4-year-old seizing 12 to 15 times a day? We have a daughter, Lanny, who's 5 years older than Josh, and so she was 9 when Josh was in this absolute crisis of seizing. How do you spend any quality time with a 9-year-old when her brother is seizing 12 to 15 times a day? You don't.
Sure.
And so, and then the cost of, we were, to give you some idea of the medical crisis that we're in, we called an ambulance more than 30 times in a 3-month period. And so you think about the ambulance cost, the admissions. I lived at a children's hospital in Vancouver because my wife and I made a decision we would never leave our son alone in hospital. We did that one night, and when we came back the next day, he had his arms and legs strapped to a bed so that he couldn't move, and he was an infant. And so I said, I'm not leaving my son alone with you people. And so I insisted on being there at night, and my wife would come in the morning. And so my life is that I would be with my son at night in the hospital. My wife would show up in the morning with a fresh change of clothes for me. I would go find a shower in the hospital. I would drive to work. I would work during the day, and then I would drive back to the hospital and spend the evening with my son. That was my life.
Wow.
Josh required a one-on-one care attendant in school. He could never be left alone.
Ted, I know you would. I'm pretty sure you had mentioned this the first time you were on, but I can't remember how long after your son was given the vaccine did the symptoms first start? Was it immediate, or was there some time?
Well, what happened immediately is our son went from being a very happy, content baby that breastfed, was easy to feed. We were absolutely thrilled with this, how healthy our baby was. And immediately after the shots, he became a very agitated, irritable, discontented baby. That was a challenge. And we actually went to the doctor twice in the next 2 weeks and said, there's something wrong with our baby. And what I say is that the child we brought home from the doctor's office was not the same child we took to the doctor's office. But it was day 21 after the shot that Josh had his first grand mal seizure. And it was 25 minutes long, and I had no idea what was happening to my son. He's just vibrating in his crib, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't realize it was a seizure. I'd never seen a seizure before. And we of course called the ambulance, went to Children's Hospital, and after a number of days they sent us home and said, here's anti-seizure medication. Everything's going to be fine. Treat your child as a normal child, and everything will be okay. A month later again, he seized again. A month later again, a month later again. And then it started to increase in frequency up until it was 12 to 15 times a day. And then the story that I've told Nico is that when Josh was 5, the chief neurologist at Vancouver Children's Hospital took me aside one day and he said, please, Mr. Kuntz, don't bring your son back.
What? Wow. Why?
Ted.
He said, there's nothing we can do. And basically what he's saying is you're taking up hospital time, you're taking up resources, and there's nothing we can do for your son. Take him home. And I was unwilling to give up, and so I went looking for alternative health care, and I knew nothing about alternative health care. I was like most people that, if anything, I thought it was quackery, I thought it was bogus, but I mean, I wasn't going to just let my son have this kind of life. And so I found a naturopath in Surrey, BC, and she did her assessment on Josh, and the first thing out of her mouth was, she said, your son is vaccine injured. And I said, that's what I've always suspected, but the doctors at Children's Hospital kept denying that. They kept saying that I couldn't prove that it was vaccine injury. They wanted me to prove it. And through the next 3 years of using acupuncture, herbal remedies, homeopathic remedies, they reduced the seizures from 12 to 15 times a day and 15 to 20 minutes long to 3 to 4 times a month, and the seizures were 30 seconds in length.
Wow.
And that's the best we got, and that's what he lived with the rest of his life, was that rate of seizing.
You know, Ted, when I went to Vancouver, or when I went to BC to meet you and we recorded some content, you told me this story. It didn't hit as hard as you saying it right now, because my son was not born when you had me at your home. Now seeing my son smile, seeing my son just he's such a happy baby. He's always happy. I cannot imagine. It breaks my heart right now. I cannot imagine what you went through, seeing that happy face all the time, like I'm blessed to see every single day.
Yeah.
To having, you would know right away. I could tell you in a fraction of a second that something was wrong with my son. I know. I spend most of my days
of
with
course
him,
you would.
so
For
I
sure.
know.
Yep.
So to have people tell you that it's not vaccines, that it's not the problem, that you can't prove it, you're a very patient man. I'd be in prison for murder right now.
Well, and this was back in 1984, so it was before the 1986 Act. And I was a graduate student at the University of British Columbia at the time, and because I was a graduate student, I had access to the medical library. So I started to do my own research on the vaccine that injured my son, which was the DPT vaccine, so the pertussis, diphtheria, and tetanus shot. And what I discovered was that vaccine had well-documented history of causing neurological injury and death. And that was the vaccine that put the vaccine industry in crisis, because there were so many lawsuits from that vaccine that's why they did the act in 1986. And shortly after that, they withdrew that vaccine from the market in North America because it was so dangerous. But they still use that vaccine in third world countries because it's a couple of cents cheaper to manufacture than the vaccine that's used in Canada and the United States. And Dr. Peter Abe, who is a doctor who was working with children in Africa, he did a study looking at vaccinated and unvaccinated children in Africa with just that vaccine alone, the DPT shot. And his research discovered that children were 5 to 10 times more likely to die from getting the vaccine than from not getting the vaccine.
That's just
wow.
insane.
That is insane.
I don't know if you had.
I was just going to say,
go ahead.
He presented that research to the UN, to the World Health Organization, and he chastised them and said, you need to do something. You need to stop the killing of children with this vaccine. And to this day, they still use that vaccine in Africa.
Yeah, I just have one quick one, and then Nico, we can put a pin in her. But and again, if you don't mind me asking, Ted, I'm sure this is a really difficult topic, but I think there's a lot of value, I think, in hearing this because we had talked about this before, but this was the first time I'd ever really heard like an up close and personal story of that kind of vaccine injury. How long was Josh able to? Was Josh with us before he eventually succumbed to the vaccine injury?
He was 31 when he passed.
Oh wow! I cannot imagine what kind of an act of love that must have been for you and to take care of him. Kudos to you, sir.
Well,
and I'm sure it didn't even feel like a choice. I got a son as well. It wouldn't even be a choice. You know what I mean? It wouldn't. It would just be this is what you have to do.
And that's what it was like for me and my wife, Josh's mom. They suggested we left Josh at the hospital and just go home and leave him, is what they told us.
You know what they'd suggest now?
Made.
Yeah.
And I just said that's not going to happen. And so it changed my life. It changed my wife's life. She spent her whole career working with families with kids with disabilities. And of course, I moved into a different direction with Vaccine Choice Canada and other things that I do around trying to raise awareness around vaccine injury, writing books and those kinds of things. But
wow.
It's always a pleasure speaking to you. Your story's heartbreaking, and it doesn't get better every time I hear it. It doesn't get easier to hear, because man, I can't imagine. like we have a personal relationship, you and I, so I know more to the story than just what you're saying right now. It's just insane. I fully understand why you did what you did, why you do what you do today, and I'm always happy to have you on the show to speak about vaccination and all the troubles that are related to vaccine. Like, we need to provide people with informed consent, and that's the whole point of Vaccine Choice Canada. So as always,
100%.
Ted, thank you for what you do. If you do have something you want to promote, something you want to let our listeners know, the floor is yours.
Well, I think the best resources that we have developed is a couple of books in the last couple of years. One is called A New Parent's Guide to Understanding Vaccination. It looks like you're looking for it there. and Pregnancy and Vaccination. And I think they're incredible resources that are easily readable for young parents. I just had dinner with a couple that lives in the United States, and they are big fans of Vaccine Choice Canada. And she orders, 20 copies at a time. And when she sees a pregnant woman walking down the street, she gives them a copy of our book because she said it's the best thing I can do to help them. We are working on a third book now, which is targeting young adults 18 to 25. I hope to have that available in the next 2 months, because lots of young people are being coerced into vaccination, or they will choose a career path which will impose vaccine mandates as part of that career. So, for example, anybody that is looking to be in the healthcare profession needs to understand you will be coerced or mandated if you want to continue to practice your craft to get vaccinated with whatever they decide. And the new bill that was introduced in BC, the Health Occupations Act, Health Professions Occupation Act, Bill 36, says that the government can decide what vaccines are required for you to maintain your license. And that could change from year to year. And so you give up bodily sovereignty if you choose a profession like that. And young people need to understand that. I get questions all the time from young people saying, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a physiotherapist, I want to be a speech therapist. And I've been told that they won't put me on a practicum placement unless I have all of the vaccines on the childhood schedule. And I just say, I think you have to recognize that if you're going to follow that career path, you give up your right to say no. And are you willing to do that? And so in this book that we're creating, we actually have a number of stories of people who had to give up their career because they refused to be violated with these injections over and over and over again.
Wow.
That's great, Ted. I'm looking forward to reading it and probably doing work with you about it like we're doing right now. So
yeah,
this makes sense. It's very logical to inform the 18
Yeah.
to 25, or probably the 16 to 25, before you make that decision. You go to college to understand what those lifelong choices actually represent here in Canada. So
yeah.
very smart, very smart. I wouldn't have thought about that. That's very clever.
Well, we got to get to people before they get injured. And I believe every vaccine injures. It's just a question of degree. And when you begin to understand the mechanics of vaccination, you understand how it causes injury to your immune system, your neurological system, your cardiac system. I think that, well, the best stories, and Nico, you're helping us to uncover these, is when you have families that have a vaccinated child and a completely unvaccinated child, and it's a world of difference. And those are often the best advocates for people to do their homework.
Very good point.
Yeah.
Ted, thank you very much
Thank you.
for being on the show. Thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure. I'm just going to leave you in the back room because I just want to make sure your video uploads. But Rob, if you want to close off the show, as you say, we'll put a pin in her.
Put a pin in her. I appreciate the time, Ted.
Thanks, Rob.
Sorry. It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to have you on, and it's a powerful story you have, and I think it's important for people to hear it.
Well, thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate you both.
All right, guys, we're gonna put a pin in her there. Unfortunately, we couldn't get to as many comments as we normally do because we obviously had a guest there, and usually when we do that, we hand them the floor. But hopefully, you guys enjoyed that interview. Obviously, we're following the comments as they come in. It does appear like most people appreciate that, and most people were, I think, moved by Ted's story. You know, like you said, second time I've heard it, but it doesn't get any easier. And you can tell I'm not even sure how long ago Josh passed, but you can tell he still feels that every day, and he still lives with that every day. You can hear the emotion in his voice, and as you're a father now, Nico, and so am I think anyone,
I can't imagine.
everyone can understand what that feels like, but I think if you're a father or a mother, I think it hits just a little bit differently. Other than that, folks, if you did enjoy the show, if you're new here and you want to support the show, please consider becoming a member. You can do that through YouTube for the low price of $2.99 per month. You can also buy us a coffee in your upper right-hand corner of the screen, and that will allow us to keep bringing you this high-quality content. Also, another way to support the show is just keep coming back. Throw your comments in there. Obviously, we had a guest today. We couldn't get to too many, but normally this show is heavily based on audience engagement, audience participation. We want to hear from you, and we'll respond to you. So come back, throw your comments in there. Remember to like and share the stream. And other than that, we will catch you tomorrow night. Peace.
Peace.